everyone, thank you for joining us to learn about communication through colors. What is colors? Colors is a personality that shines through each and every one of us and through you as well. What we're going to need is a pen and a paper, and then we're going to draw 4 columns and 6 rows down that paper. So we'll give you a minute to do that, and we're going to do the same. Fantastic. How are we doing? We've got our 6 rows. Great job. All right, and thank you out there. Great job. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Andrea to show you what that will look like on a piece of paper.
So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Thank you.
On your screen, you are going to see 4 groups of words. What you are going to do is put them in order in the way of numbers. 4 being most likely you would do that. 3 likely that you would do that. 2 so-so that you would do that. And 1 least likely to do that.
So for myself, I chose number 4, fun, active, variety, and spontaneous as most like me. Number 3, responsible, organized, plan, and neat, which is kind of like me. Number 2, compassionate, nice, helpful, and friendship as so-and-so like me. And number 1, competent, learning, inventive, and private, which is least like me. So here is how I have written them on my chart.
In your second slide, pick a collection of words that is most like you and give it a 4. For somewhat like you, give it a 3. For so-so like you, give it a 2. And least like you, give it a 1.
So for myself, my number 4 for this column of words is competitive, impetuous, action, and contest. And my number 3, which is most likely me, communicative, caring, people, and feelings. For my number 2, which is so like me, conservative, practical, on time, and sensible. And for my number 1, which is least like me, is logical, curious, ideas, and questions. So there you have it.
In your third slide, pick a collection of words that is most like you and give it a 4. Somewhat like you, give it a 3. So like you, give it a 2. And least like you, give it a 1.
So for myself, I have picked for my number 4, which is most likely me, is follow-ups, procedural, trustworthy, and dependable. For my number 3, which is likely, I picked warm, kind, understanding, and giving. For my number 2, which is so-so, is theoretically, independent, exploring, and ingenious. And for my number 1, I picked realistic, playful, quick, and adventurous. And there's me.
In your fourth slide, pick a collection of words that is most like you and give it a 4. Somewhat like you, give it a 3. So like you, give it a 2. And least like you, give it a 1.
For myself, my number 4, most like me, is determined, thinking, solving problems, challenges. My number 3, somewhat like me, loves animals, sharing, getting along, and tender. My number 2, so, is loyal, makes lists, being useful, and saves money. My number 1, daring, free, and winning. And this is what mine looks like.
For your last slide, pick a collection of words that is most like you and give it a 4. Somewhat like you, give it a 3. So like you, give it a 2. Least like you, give it a 1.
So for these last collection of words, I have chosen number 4, most like me, courageous, skillful, lively, and hands-on. Number 3, which is kind of like me, orderly, careful, traditional, doing things right. Number 2, which is so, affectionate, nature, easygoing, and sympathetic. And number 1, which is least like me, books, philosophical, rational, and making sense. And here is how I have gathered my numbers. Okay, ladies, so let's see what each other has. Oh, look at that, awesome. So if your number in the first row is your highest number, then that means that you are an orange. Woo! And if your number is the highest in the second column, that means you are a gold. And if your number is highest in the third column, that means you are a blue.
Oh, I'm a blue.
And if your number is highest in the green, the fourth column, you are a green. And that's me, I'm a green.
So it turns out I'm gold. I like structure. I like to have a list that I can check off because that makes me happy that the task is complete. And I love also to make sure that things are in place and things go very smoothly. Yes, there.
Thanks. And I'm orange, I'm spontaneous, I love a challenge, and I never lose. And I'm green, I'm analytical, I love receiving information, finding information, learning information, problem solving information. I have answers. If people have questions, I probably have the answer. I'm an encyclopedia, I'm just like that.
And I'm blue. I love people. I love animals. I love going out with my family. I love my friends. And I love talking about feelings. I'm a feeling person. And I also like to get into people's personal spaces.
And I don't like that. So there's this big talent show that I really want to do. It's going to have lights, balloons, first place, second place. I know you can do it. I know you can organize it.
Okay, yes, I can do it. But do you remember that report that I asked you to do? It was due yesterday. Do you think that's something that?
Yeah, I started it, but I got sidetracked and I did something else. Maybe I can do it later on. But can you do the talent show?
I can.
Awesome, you're awesome. Thank you.
Hey,
did you know cats can jump from any height and they'll land on their feet every time? That's so cool. And they don't like water. They, like, if you put them anywhere near water, they don't.
Speaking of cats, 10 years ago I had a cat. His name was Fluffy. He was so cute. I just loved him so much. My mom brought it to me from the shelter because we love to do things like that. We love to take in cats and dogs, and it was the cutest little thing. But then he died, and that was so heartbroken.
Oh. Did you know that your cat also had a sticky tongue?
But Fluffy was a really good cat.
Oh.
He listened to everybody.
I'm sorry for your loss. That must have been really hard.
Can I get a hug?
Sorry about your cat.